everybody. On today's Madge Unmuted, we talk about gingers. And because there's a new trend right now on TikTok talking about, and actually the hashtag says gingers are black. I verbatim, it's on there. It's interesting. We'll discuss it. And about the trials and tribulations of having red hair, because, you know, it really is, it's hard being hot. On today's Madge Unmuted. Come on in, the water's fine.
And hot.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Madge Unmuted. I'm your hostess, Madge Madigan. That's me, and with me, as always, is Chrissa Fitz. Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Rock on, brother and sisters.
No, I had like several topics that I want to talk about today, and it all went to hell like slightly
forgot.
before. I saw something else, so I want to talk about communication in a minute.
So again, you're breaking
Yeah,
up.
because you know the key to listening is to shut the fuck up. So that's my new slogan. Hey everybody, while you're here, subscribe to Madge Unmuted. Also, I've got Madge merch now. Go to madgeunmuted.com and click on the merch button, and there you go. And you get some really cool shit. I got everything from I got t-shirts and hats and a dog leash, and I have like all over print lycra shorts and with my face on your crotch.
Did you get my chaps?
A thong? Yeah.
Yeah, no chaps. You know what? You'll just have to cut the crotch out of the pants.
Out of the shorts, yeah.
Make your own.
Again.
Yep. There you go. So, just quick, speaking of that, so my friend was here visiting last week because unfortunately a friend of ours passed away.
Oh.
And it was a very sudden thing. And it was a guy who was only 64, and like 3/4 of the town were there. Like, I only hope that I can be as beloved as this person. But anyway, and do you ever go to a funeral of somebody that makes you want to be a better person? Like after you hear
how good they
all
were.
the eulogies and stuff. Yeah. He lit up a room. He was the life of the party. He always tried to help people, you know? So anyway, it's like, I want to be like that. But anyway, so my friend came and she's my age, and we're like, you know, talking about what we're wearing, and she had this dress and she was showing me, and she's like, was talking about some Spanx that she bought. And she said, I'd never heard this. She goes, but I haven't tried the pee hole yet.
Pee hole?
So apparently Spanx, for ladies, you know what Spanx are?
Yeah,
they're like
sure. The compression garment.
underwear that sucks everything in.
That's fun to wear.
Yep.
Not so much, because you can't breathe in them. And it has, you know, they open up, and so that because you like really have to peel these things down to go to the bathroom, and apparently there's a hole, and you just
and you just let it
pull it
loose
apart and go.
Is it one of these
and
things, like...
Yeah. That's really kind of gross. But anyway, so she's like, so I'm like, oh my God, I could never use them because I would pee all over myself. And she's like, oh my God, me too. That's why. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, you stand to pee anyway, don't you?
I do.
Sometimes. It depends on
I'm
how
an
much.
alpha gal.
It depends?
Depends on how bad you gotta go.
Exactly. So, okay, totally. We're just like a strange cornucopia. Get it? Cornucopia. By the way, I'm feeling better, everybody.
Good. You sound so much better. My goodness.
Thank you.
You don't sound like you're
when I went to
Lucky's.
I know. I went to calling hours last Thursday, and that was the first time I'd been out of the house in like 2 weeks. But anyway, so I want to talk about communication, and I kind of was in like a really bad mood before that. I've been progressively, like, everyone had been telling me how in the past year that like, oh, your podcast is so, you know, you're so happy now, and it looks like such joy and everything. But like, I'm getting like turning 60 in just under a month is really starting to affect me. I'm getting really depressed and shit. But also, I have like absolutely zero tolerance for bullshit anymore.
How many do you have to give? None? None. My fucks no longer runneth over.
So those are all the fucks I have to give. What'd you say?
My fucks no longer runneth over. Yeah.
They're do
gone.
not. Well, they ran over a long time ago and they were gone. So I was going to talk about communication because I just don't have any tolerance for people who can't communicate well anymore.
There's a lot of them out there,
which is pretty much everyone, right?
Yeah, I mean,
God,
besides the three
can't.
of us, I don't think anyone else can communicate.
No, absolutely not.
Especially if they're in the communication field.
Oh, God. So anyway, real quick, I always like to peruse the social media and look for trending topics and everything. And a trending topic that was just like in the past, I don't know, good God, it maybe just past day or two, it was like the hashtag or whatever, the topic, gingers are black. That's the trending thing on TikTok.
Gingers are black.
Yeah.
Never heard of such a thing.
So I'm like, okay, I gotta look at this.
What does that mean?
Well, it falls into the communication thing because it's being misconstrued. Basically, what the premise is that I think that somebody started was that redheads. This is what I could glean from it because
marginalized population.
That's what I was wondering. Is that what that means?
Is that what they're getting at? Minority.
Yes. Red people are the what? No. Red people are the black people of white people.
No.
However,
but,
comma, black people. A lot of black people are posting this, and they're like welcoming. And they're like, we can see it. We could see it. You know, gingers, come on in. We love you. You know.
Oh wow. But still,
welcome to the cookout. You know, and then a lot of redheads will be like, I can see it. So, but somehow some people have bent it. Like one guy, some people try and actually think that there's a scientific link. I mean, yeah, okay.
Like genetically,
yeah. I mean, other than, like hair texture and whatnot, and sometimes gingers will have similar facial features. And, they were trying to link it back, and some people could, okay, yes, no, maybe, but it's kind of that variation on a theme. Like, well, I don't think that's really what they meant, but this is what they really meant. I mean, so.
And who started this?
Innuendo?
I don't know. Well,
I mean, like a ginger person who feels marginalized, maybe? Is that, or don't we really know who started this?
We don't really know.
No. It's proven that gingers have no soul. I mean, that's been proven.
Well,
yeah.
People are talking about, about dancing and hair and all these things. And my thing was when people started making jokes about it, especially redheaded people, I'm still of the like, you can't say that. Anyway, I don't know why I brought all this up.
Communication.
Because, somebody said, some person was trying to sound smart and be scientific and talk about, like around the turn of the last century, no blacks, no Irish need apply. And so back then, Irish were put in the same, in a similar,
right. And so we're Chinese.
Discrimination. Right.
Yeah. Chinese were too.
And
even Italians, it depends on where you were, but even Italians and if you weren't a WASP.
Right. Well, it went, and Catholics, so it was broken down into several things of why. One, anybody who had a darker skin complexion, so that was the Italians, any Hispanic, whatever. Yeah. Irish is just because the wonderful British gave us a reputation of being dirty, nasty, and filthy animals that just wanted to have a lot of sex and just have kids. And stupid and just were pagans and drink or whatever. It's like, so we were pagans a long time ago. Yeah, we had a lot of babies. It's because the freaking the
contraception.
The Catholic Church
because it was
in
against
Ireland preached that constantly. And the the British made us, filthy and dirty whenever as to justify to take all of our land and to make us servants and shit. So anyway, so then there was a part where the Irish and African Americans in some parts of the country became kin. They became close because they both were marginalized. So mainly down south. Because then up here, a lot of Irish were like, well, shit rolls downhill, so we're okay, but the next one below us are blacks. So,
oh, jeez.
It's that historical.
They gotta take their aggression out on somebody.
Right.
It always does that.
But if you look, if you've seen historically, there were a lot of, black families that had Irish sounding names, and it was because there was a lot of interracial marrying because they felt like we were kin. So somebody was trying to say then that's where the redheads came from or something. Like, no, there was fucking redheads. There's been, I don't know.
They were saying that redheads came about from the crossbreeding of Irish and African Americans.
Yeah, like
that's
how
another
stupid
TikTok theory.
Right.
I don't know. I think it started out like as a joke, like we are the redheaded stepchildren of redheaded stepchildren. You know what I mean? And
did you ever see The Commitments? The movie The Commitments?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's saying, and they're singing all the R&B the songs, and they're like, the Irish are the blacks of the UK, and we're in Dublin, and we're the blacks of the Dubliners. So say it, I'm black and I'm proud, and that was their whole thing, is that they were the most marginalized of their people.
But then some people were just a little confused trying to think of the origins, but then I think they were mixing it up with the similarities because there were a lot of Irish and African Americans, and then also there were several things through the South that clogging, the dancing, guess where that came from? Irish step dancing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Country music, you know where that came from? Irish music.
Really?
So if you think about the very early country music, it used the same instruments, the banjo and the drum and whatever. And then they were talking about what's the word for linguistics? Like the study of the origins of
of language,
accents.
Oh yes.
Part of it, I think that they were saying this. It was a black person talking about black Southern accents, which I guess I can see. And so then they were saying that the kind of lilt came from a sort of an Irish brogue, but I don't know. That just means that all of our cultures were woven together in the past. So
have you ever felt marginalized because of the color of your hair?
Oh yeah.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you feel like it's a real thing? Like it's a real thing?
I mean, yeah. I was made fun of as two things. I was made fun of as a redhead. I was made fun of as a kid for my red hair, and my hair was a little bit darker red, and I was just in complete denial that I was a redhead.
Sort of color, like an auburn.
Yeah, it was like the darker hues. Where is it? Yeah.
The brown red?
That was more. And now this is from the sun because my hair underneath is white. It would be white if I didn't. Yeah. And so the red
And
doesn't
also
hold.
because of
So
that,
it just
right.
makes these lovely natural looking highlights.
Yeah, right.
So
But you
I
didn't.
was like,
you were sort of in
I
denial.
was like, redhead? What are you talking
And was
about?
your
I'm not a
was your
redhead.
mother a redhead too?
No, my mother was dark.
Oh, she
like
was.
dark
I've seen
brown.
pictures of her, but only when she was like older too. So
Yeah, I mean, she was salt and pepper by the time I was. She said that her father was, but he died like 2 years before I was born.
Yeah.
So I guess my Gaga McCall, as they called him, was he had the dark auburn, but also my dad. By the time I was born, my dad was white hair. And they always talked about him being blonde, and because all of the pictures from when he was young were black and white. Because
sure,
that's
and he
all
had
there
light
was.
hair. Yeah,
I mean, because he was born in 1923, so he had blonde. But I think he was strawberry blonde because those are the ones that go white real fast.
yeah. It fades out.
So I think my dad had some redhead.
For what
hair.
it's worth, in the last, say, I don't know, 15, 20 years or so, maybe more, I've really learned to appreciate redheaded women.
Okay, that's the other thing.
I find them very appealing, as a matter of fact.
So that's the other thing. So as a kid, I was made fun of. As I got a little bit older, like in high school or whatever, a few guys are like, "Oh, my boyfriend in high school used to say, I'm in love with the pretty little redheaded girl, or whatever." And then after college, as I got older, it became like a novel. I became a novelty act. And so there's a lot of guys, redheads, you really like redheads. And I'm like, I always wanted to be with a redhead, or I always wanted to date a redhead. And it's like, I'm not a fucking fetish or
right,
a
carnival
novelty.
act, for God's sake.
Right. And I've covered this a few times on this, on this podcast. I'm not a fucking carnival act. It's like, I'm just a notch in your belt. Thanks. If it's different, if you would say, I've always thought red hair was so pretty.
Right. That's totally
100%.
different than I always wanted to.
That's not, I always wanted to be with a redhead.
No, that's different.
That's stupid.
Or
So
I
I'm-
always wanted to date a redhead.
And a lot of people don't like it when you say, "Oh, you have a type," but people have types. You have things. You have
course.
looks that you're more drawn to. And
Right.
I've always been more drawn to brunettes. I mean, I married a brunette, but I like pretty girls. It doesn't really matter what color hair there is, what
Who
color
doesn't?
what color their skin is. It doesn't matter.
Well,
pretty is
Chris
pretty to me.
doesn't, but
Well, I like pretty girls.
But
I just use them for different things. I like to go shopping with them.
and I like to watch you go shopping
Right.
with them. But especially over the last, and a lot of it has to do with like, do you ever watch True Blood? I can't remember
was
the
it
actress's name, but there's
wait,
a
was
redhead.
that the vampire show?
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a redhead on that show that is just gorgeous. And then and I think it was sometime in my mid 20s that I started saying, I never really thought about it, because growing up, some of the redhead kids that I knew, that like the young girls, they weren't all that pretty. Because growing up, I wasn't thinking about it. But after puberty, and I was like, you start to be, I don't know, maybe because we were kind of like socialized into thinking like, oh, this is pretty and this is not. And it's kind of like what you're saying.
Absolutely.
When we were kids, it used to be like, oh, she's pale and redhead and blah, blah, blah. And she's going to burn, and, all these negative connotations to having red hair. But then
All it was she has frizzy orange hair. That was all
was it orange?
Mine wasn't, but anyway.
Well, I always thought it would be like, it was just so incredibly unique and beautiful But it was like, look how different you are than everybody else. Look at your uniqueness. And
I mean, I feel that way now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
And then I just started to really kind of like, don't tell my wife. I was like,
then you started to watch porn with Redhead.
Then you were like,
no,
you wouldn't do that. I know.
I don't watch porn for very long.
You watch
for very long. It doesn't last long.
Nude
right?
artistic films.
35 seconds tops.
Oh my God, how funny.
Well, you know,
25
you get your
if it's a
business
redhead.
done in short order.
Oh my gosh.
No, but
So-
that connoisseur of red hair, just like it's just one of those things that over time
Right.
I've become more accustomed to liking. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, and so like you're saying, like being attracted, or yeah, you are more drawn. That's the way you said it. Like more drawn. I'd always was more drawn to a man with a brunette with light blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first time I ever saw Christopher in the bar, when I met him, I was with my friend and I walked in and I'm like, oh my God, he's so handsome. But he plays for the other team.
Yeah, the other team. Well, sometimes one team, sometimes the other. I'm a switch hitter.
Well, you have played for both teams.
Right.
I think you retired from the one team.
Yeah, I'm over
But
that
no,
one.
I mean,
Kind of managing the other team now.
Right, barely.
at my age, any hair at all now is kind of rare. I you know, it's like you have your, I mean, that's the thing with us. It's like I could say, oh, I love a brunette guy. I love a blonde guy, but like most everybody's bald now at 60s.
Most of it, right. So you
know.
got to check the other hair. You're like, wait, hold on 1 second. No.
Ew.
Gross.
Ew, exactly. Excuse me, can I trim this and put it on the top of your head?
Make a merkin for you.
Exactly. Or reverse merkin.
That's a good band name.
Reverse merkin.
Reverse merkin.
So,
like
John does not have much hair because when he was blonde. So, and my ex-husband was blonde, and you know, a lot of times blonde men lose hair, but he still got a really pretty good amount, but it's so light. So, like, if he had been a brunette, he'd still look like he had, you know, not that there's anything wrong with not having hair, but he's always like, oh yeah, I'm bald. I'm like, you're really not. Like, you shave it down to nothing, but like when you you know, are on vacation and you kind of let it grow, it's like you still have kind of a lot of hair. But
I shave my hair. I shave mine down just because I don't like to have hair. I mean, it grows out fine. I just, when it grows out, it's like all salt and pepper, and I'm like, yeah. And I just feel unkempt unless I have a buzz cut. I don't know why. It's like maybe
you feel more kempt when you have a buzz cut.
Very kempt.
Well, that's like when I cut mine off last week again. Just gotta open this a little more. It's a little hot in here. I got mine chopped off again last week. Just because I'm realizing, like, if you look back to, I don't know, around the holidays, I was letting my hair grow out, and John's like, oh, I really like it. Blah. And then as I started to look at myself, I know. And I started to look at myself, I was like, this just looks like blah. You know,
did you ever have
like
really long hair, like when you were younger, like super long hair, like Crystal Gale long hair? Or
no, my sister did though. My sister Jane, who's 2 years older than me, she had hair down to her backside when we were kids. But when I first met Chris in like 2011, something like that. Yeah, my hair was like down to here.
Mm-hmm. It was glamour,
and yeah, and you know, I was still in my 40s.
That's a lot to take.
Okay.
It's a lot to take care of, right?
Because
it was like, you know.
Well, and I used to have
and you
it.
have thick hair and.
Yeah, and I used to just always want to put it up in a ponytail. And I remember I worked with this girl. She was kind of one of those people that we all know the people that are like, well, I'm just being honest when you're actually being
when you're being
just
like,
being a bitch.
Yeah. So a lot of people say about Trump, well, he's just honest. No, he's being an asshole. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to say that shit to people. That serves no purpose. If you want to say, yeah, I'm just an asshole, okay, I'll say that. Don't just say, oh, I'm just being honest. So anyway, I digress. So she would say, well, I don't know why anybody would have long hair just to put it up in a ponytail all the time. Like, I don't know. I don't have it. I just want to have, why do you have long hair? Just put it up in a ponytail. I'm like, because I like the look of a ponytail. Like, yeah, it's easier when I like go to the gym or do yard work or something than, putting this back. It's like, I kind of got to take it up or whatever. I had long hair. I just tie it all back. I always wanted to say to her, well, at least mine doesn't look like shit like yours, girl. Just being honest.
Just being honest. Since we're being honest.
Remember my Nana who was who
yes.
tried to break into our podcast from the Beyond the Grave?
Exactly. The Amy
she used to after I'd get my hair cut. I mean, since Kelly has always cut my hair like this. Like since I started doing this, and after I'd get my hair cut, Nana would always go, do you like your hair that short? Just being honest. It was always like, yeah, but obviously you don't.
I know, right?
So, which brings me to another thing. Just made me think of something. So 2 days ago was Mother's Day. And so my kids are so sweet. The first time ever, all three of them sent me Mother's Day cards. They sent me flowers with a card, but I don't know. I'm guessing it was Libby because she's always the ringleader. That she had each one of them get a card and they each filled it out with a nice, pretty, long note about like saying how much I mean to them or whatever.
Aww.
And yeah, and it's so funny. Like, it's so funny. The girls were all like, "And mommy, we love you so much, and I know I'm like you, and I like that, and blah, 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 blah." And my son is like, "I love you. You're smart, and you're kind, and you're nice, and my cat, your grandcats say hello." And it's like not. It's just a boy thing. My son is like, he can be so sweet, but it was just so funny to see a 31-year-old boy and then the girl in their 20s. But anyway, so they each sent me a card and they were lovely. And my one daughter said something about like she's noticing more and more, she's like, and I feel like I'm more and more like you, and I love that, and I couldn't be prouder, and yada, yada. And she said, I know sometimes we have our tiffs because I'm realizing it's because we're so much alike. And I was like, I don't never have tiffs with you. I'm like, you have them with me.
Apparently, she keeps them to herself.
I know sometimes she doesn't, because the other two will give her grief because she went through a period in high school where she was pretty bitchy to me, like junior and senior year. And I think like every kid, I think their junior year goes through it. Like if it's a kid that's like starting to look at colleges or worried about their future, start taking SATs and all this and that, they get really fucking bitchy junior year of high school. So anybody who has somebody coming up on that. And so Abby did, it's a transition period. You're going from little kid, I don't give a shit, to now I got to think about my future. because I went through it too. I remember going through then and then like my senior year of college. So anyway, she'd start being, really short with me, and the other two will be like, and she'll even joke about it now, too, about, like, oh God, well, I'm feeling bitchy, but like not as bitchy as Abby used to be when mom, whatever. But she apologized several years ago, like, Mom, I am so sorry. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Right.
I
Apology
get it.
accepted. Yeah.
Apology accepted. I did it to my mother. Anyway. So,
and please do it to your kids. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And
because
so,
they're going to have tiffs with you too.
Right, but the thing is like, she'll get mad at me, and I'll notice the other two will do it too. Like, I'll go there to visit, and I've become hyper aware of trying not to annoy my kids or piss them off. So, and I know I still, I think we all do the, oh my God, my mother's annoying thing. Even, it gets less as you get older. Well, it depends on your mother, I guess.
Right,
but,
your mother.
So
your mother.
Right.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, I got a whole nother thing to tell you about mothers. So I'm so like, and all of a sudden I'll just get the thing, or like they'll all start to talk by themselves, and I'm left over here, and I'm like, okay, Mom did something annoying again, so I'm just gonna,
like, where are we gonna put her? Where are we gonna put this woman?
But it's like, you talk about a tiff. It's like, okay, I didn't do anything on purpose to annoy you. I maybe did something awkward to annoy you, but I didn't say like, why are you getting fat? What,
right.
Really? You don't really do much. Are you gonna wear that out? I mean, like,
I know.
I don't
right.
do
Which
that.
Which is terrible. Shit. I know, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is what
and
happened to my mother. My mother, I remember my grandmother used to be like, I don't like your hair that way, and you're getting fat. Like my mother'd be like, oh, nice to see you.
That's the shit my dad would say to me. And so, Chris, that's what made me think of it. Or, I mean, Fitz, when you said, she's like, do you like it? Even like,
it's that generation.
That's even less offensive. Yeah, my father would used to say stuff like,
"You're not going out dressed like a whore."
Somebody in high school had spread a rumor about me, and I was devastated. And it's like, because like when I had moved to the new high school, like no one would even date me, probably because I was a strange redheaded stepchild, and no one even date me. And then so somebody spread a rumor about me, and I'm like crying, and my dad heard me talking about it to my mom, and I'm like, and they called me a slut and whatever. And my dad goes, well, you must have done something to make them think that. Yeah.
Oh, God. Victim blaming.
Right.
Maybe it's the tube tops.
What'd you do?
But it was. But I know, my dad again was born in 1923. My dad had absolutely no filter, and that's the way his parents spoke to him. And I think over the years, my mother was like, Thomas, you can't say that to her. So he learned, but it's like, but I think when she's saying you have tiffs, I'm like, I haven't been out and out cruel to you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like maybe awkward. Like I'm Mom's trying to be funny, she,
and they're like,
so that's
Mom.
like reason to get mad at me. But anyway, okay. So my parents have been gone since 2012 and 2013. So, and like, I would give anything to have them back, because there's just so many questions that don't come around until you're older in life that you don't think to ask until now, that I wish I could ask them. So somebody close to me, I want to put this delicately, who is our age, their mother is obviously nearing the end, and she is a few months shy of 90, and she was not very nice when they were young, and so as she's getting dementia and mental health issues, whatever, and she's in a rehab place right now, physical rehab, not like not Betty Ford or anything. So she's able.
Getting her off the wild turkey.
She's starting to revert to that mean person.
Oh boy!
Because I think as she got a little older, she was able to like control it anymore. She had a kind of a tough childhood, so she took shit out on other people. Well, she's reverting back to that, and it's heartbreaking to these people because they're like, you want to care for this person in the last days, but they're like really, really nasty. Mm-hmm. And it's that delicate balance of trying to be compassionate and not taking an abuse, because she'll say really nasty things, and I'm like, I'm doing all this reading, and I'm like, I believe you have because it's all like, sure, you don't care anyway. What are you doing here? Don't do that. Shut the fuck up. I mean, shit like that. And it's like, you can have boundaries now. You're even 60
with
years
somebody
old.
Who's losing their
right.
Yeah.
You can just say, but also, so on the other thing, and this goes back to like the communication thing that I was going to talk about, is this person is just like heartbroken, and I think they're going through a tough time of witnessing this, and I'm like, please read up on this. Please don't. You can have boundaries. You're not that 10-year-old anymore. You're not whatever. You can you can do this, but at the same time. And this person will every time they visit her, they will go on and on and on about it, how much it affects them, and they'll say the same things. And I don't know why she did. And I'm like, it's not gonna change.
No, right? Yeah.
This is the point where acceptance. Comes in.
Yeah, because you're not going to change a 90-year-old
Her
person.
communication isn't going to change. Your communication probably isn't going to change. Lord knows, because I've talked to you about it 800 times. And, and it's just like there's a point where you just have to walk away. And this person will go and whatever and, try and put in their visit. But she it's just like, she tried to go off of me, and I'm like, nope, sorry. I'm not obligated to deal with this.
Yeah,
so,
that's a shame, because I think at some point you sort of become the parent to a certain extent too.
Oh, absolutely.
As people, yeah.
That's that really tough cycle of of life,
Yes.
when a person, the person gets older, and then they start to decline and they become more childlike. And, that's when you have that sandwich generation where you're still trying to raise your kids, but now your parents are in decline. So anyway, but talking about the communication thing is, I have been so frustrated, because I worked really, really hard to get my communication, not so much in like talking, because sometimes I can't find a fucking word, but talking about how I deal with people, and how I resolve things and how I discuss things. And, because it's having like, what do you call it? Therapy for like the past 30 years. And so because my communication style back then was all, avoid confrontation at all costs. Never stick up for myself. Somebody told me I was bad. Yep, I am. Just take it all in, And then it wasn't until, with my husband near the end of our marriage, he was kind of an angry alcoholic, and I would start to be like, he would blame me for everything, and it's like, nope, I didn't do this. You're not going to blame me, and yada yada. Then over the years, it has, and so now, in a few weeks, I'm going to be 60. And I've had a few talks with people, like that person I just mentioned, and I had one last night with a person who's very close to me that I kind of lost it on. I'm not on them. I was venting to them about something. And I'm just at the point where I can't fucking teach anybody else how to communicate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the time for that anymore. I mean, unless it's like my kid, but if it's somebody at my age that doesn't know, I've just lost.
Well, you can't parent everybody for sure. You just can't. Yeah. Well, at some point you're like, listen, you either get it or you don't get it.
But it's not even parenting. It's like, it's people I deal with in business, in jobs, in organizations, in relationships, friends. And they'll, you get a person who they've done something wrong, and rather than talk about it, they go and make up a reason to be mad at you and that it's your fault. And so then they just walk away. We all know that type of person.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And with like some of the people closest to me, like I told this person last night that like they wanted to, every time I said what was wrong, what was bothering me, they said, well, nobody ever did that for me either. And I'm like, that's not the fucking point.
Listen, you have to,
Listen,
you just want to be heard. Yeah, you want to be heard.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to be heard. And then, because I realized I used to do that too, 20, 30 years ago. I used to be the like, well, no, I never had that either. It was a pissing contest.
Right. But that's not what friends. Yeah,
right,
that's not what friends do. You have to listen and say, I'm sure that's hard. But
there are some people at, over 50, if you don't know how to communicate, I can't.
Well, that's sort of what I meant by parenting. Is like, you're like, I can't, look, I have to teach my own kids how to live life, but somebody obviously didn't do it to you. And I can't parent you too. I can't, you got to figure it out because.
Right. So that's one of the several things I've lost my patience about is I just can't. I have absolutely no patience in teaching other people how to communicate. I mean, I'll try, but there's a point, like if you don't get it, like I had to do that at something lately, and the person just was not a good communicator, and I just was like, I just cannot do this anymore. Like, done. It was a kind of a work related thing, and I was just like, I'm not gonna beat my head against the wall anymore. And I don't know, is that bad? Is it bad that I have absolutely no patience?
There's only so much you can take. It's not. You have to focus your energies on things that matter, and it's like, don't give any of that shit any energy. Right. Any power.
And things that you can control.
Yeah.
Because really,
you can't control them.
Can fruitlessly.
So,
yeah. And that's where also I was talking to, it comes back to acceptance again. That, there's people that, I have friends of all different walks of life, but there are some people that just want to keep talking about politics. And it's the opposite of politics that I have. And I would try and talk, I would say something. I stopped commenting on social media a long time ago, but, I would try it every once in a while against my better judgment. Somebody who's a good friend of mine that posts something, and I'll say, well, it's one of those infamous, that the information they're posting is just simply a screenshot of somebody else's post. It's just words.
Yeah, they're just
It's like and they're taking it as gospel. Like, we're spending, $100 billion per immigrant on aid. And it's like,
all right, well,
because some guy said it.
Right.
Some guy tweeted it. That means it's real.
Well, some guy, wrote it on a colored background on Facebook, so it's true. Right. So I would just say, well, okay, that's not really true. And, the person's like, you're always attacking me. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I said it very specifically, like, here's the source. If you have a valid source for this, I would say, I say it nicer than that. I say, can you tell me what the source on this is? Because any of the sources that I have checked say this, and that's not entirely true, and that's not really the case. And very respectfully, they are never wrong, and I just had to accept, like, I'm never going to make a difference with this person.
It's the futility of having these arguments on Facebook or, social media. It's just like if two people can't even agree of, where the information that they're getting, which sources are acceptable. My dad gives me something that he read on, he saw on Newsmax, and I immediately discount it. I'm like, well, it's Newsmax. You can't believe Newsmax. And then he says the same thing about CNN.
Right.
And so you're at an impasse. You cannot get any further.
Right. Somebody did this. Somebody else did this recently, where they posted something that a state wide or a Republican lawmaker, and this person's a Republican. This person said, no source for their facts, but it was, again, something outrageous, like, all the left just wants to let everybody in over the border, and it costs us $80 billion per person that comes in, just that.
Yeah.
And some other person said, I was like, and somebody else said, well, now this is not entirely true, X, X, and X, and X, and this is the source, and yada, yada, yada. And all this other person did was quote this outrageous thing, and they're like, oh, so you're trying to tell me this lawmaker is a liar, da, 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 da. And the person said, well, what do you think of what, and they named a Democrat person, what they said about this? Oh, well, all they do is lie.
Yes, of course. So it's like, okay.
Do you not see?
Right. Yeah.
The cognitive dissonance, and that your ability to reason, like, I cannot fathom that. Like, I will tell you I'm wrong if I'm wrong. Like, give me a source. I'm all about it. I will have a rational conversation, but don't just pull shit out of your ass and expect me to smell it.
Jeepers.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
What kind of people are you hanging out with? Hey, put that back. I don't want to smell that.
That was a dirty Sanchez. But anyway, but like, if you just pull stuff out and take it as gospel because it's your people, but then you absolutely say that if it comes from the other side of the aisle, it's an absolute lie. It's just like, I don't even know what, like, I'm very into science, and whenever I see somebody do something like that, I am like, what is the psychological reason that this person is doing this? Like, what is the mental health diagnosis that this person cannot grasp that? And I don't know what, I still have yet to really, like, sometimes I just want to talk to some of my psychologist or psychiatric friends that, like, how is it a person absolutely believes everything is complete gospel, but that's also, there's such an extreme that they don't believe that, they'll say, well, this is the gospel, and all you people, like, all the libtards want to do is this. And it's like, well, no, that's not true. I've never heard one, and maybe if you heard one Democrat say that, or maybe some person, right, or maybe some person, one person out of 100 billion said that. So how fucking stupid are you? That's what it is. It's ego.
It's the narcissism, right? Yeah,
exactly. I was to say it's the narcissism. It's the pride. It's the ego that you are absolutely convinced you are completely right, and nobody can tell you that you're wrong. And because I know better, it's the Dunning-Kruger thing. Like, I'm the smartest person in the world. Room. I know what I'm talking about, and you can't tell me otherwise.
And it is that echo chamber, because when all you are is parroted back exactly what you're thinking and what you're
right.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do you know, to me, I'm like, do you know how stupid you sound? And I have some people that I am acquaintances with, nay, even very friendly with, and they do this stuff to me, and I just get so frustrated that I just, I stay away from that shit altogether, on or offline.
I avoid it like the plague.
But sometimes when I'll hear somebody like will be at a social gathering, and the person, sorry, this is clinking, and I'll hear that shit in the background, and I'm just, part of me is like, I want to go over there and say, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard, and it is right. So not true. Do you have any idea what you're talking about? But then I'm like,
but then you're like, but you hold it all inside.
Yes,
but you keep it all inside, Twilight.
And
Twilight.
I was at the.
And my patience for holding that in is growing thin.
Yeah, it's growing very thin. I was
your pelvic walls are weakening.
Your pelvic floor?
Or floor, that's
I'm
what
dilating.
I meant. That's what I meant.
I'm almost 10 centimeters, folks.
The floor.
Right before the election, I was at this takeout place, and I walked in, and the guy was like, they were talking about something, and the one guy says, but I don't know, that Kamala or however you say it.
Oh, yeah, bastard.
I don't know, there's something there. She's kind of loopy. She's kind of blah, blah, blah. And I just laughed. I went, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me and kind of like got the idea. Like first he thought I was with him, and then he was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I just laughed because I was like, why? Where is your facts?
Yeah.
Where are you getting this information from? What are you backing this statement up with?
Yeah.
Nothing. You have nothing.
No.
Because that's what you were told by the echo chamber that you listen to on a regular basis.
Right.
And both sides are guilty of it. Both sides are guilty.
Absolutely.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think
I agree.
I don't think one is worse than the other. I really honestly don't.
Well, there's even like, John is on the right, and I'll say something that I heard or that I feel, is maybe the impetus for something or whatever. And he'll be like, that's so not true. And I'm like, okay. Okay, so explain it to me. Something like, something that's more policy, that like, tariff or the drug prices or something, or some, whatever. And he'll be like, no, if you actually read it, they actually said this, and then they put this in here, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll read it. And part of it, like, will be true. I'm like, okay, all right, I see what you're saying. I see why this didn't pass. It's because they put all this extra pork in it, and
yeah, sure,
right, and they didn't actually vote,
which I do think happens all the time.
Right, I'm just like, okay, I got it, I understand. All right, I see what you're doing, or I see what you're saying, and I'm like, however, Trump or any other, other lawmakers on that side will use inflammatory language to make it sound like something else, and it's like. He's like, oh, well, he's just saying that. It's like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for making shit up in inflammatory language and the name calling and the antics and the performative bullshit. I'm sorry. I don't want that.
It all goes back to the locker room talk explanation of
grab
him
by the yes, right. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's just locker room talk.
Yeah, okay, that's just locker room talk. And if anybody on the other side would have said something like that on an open mic, they would have been crucified to no end.
Absolutely.
And all the Jesus freaks would have been all up in arms about it. But when it happens on their side, and we know there's hypocrisy on both sides, so it's pointless to even fucking talk about it.
Right.
Exactly.
My patience is worn thin, too. I will not speak to my parents about... If my mom starts to talk, when I call her, try to call her every week, and when she starts to talk about any of the politics, I'm like, yeah, okay. So anyway, I immediately change the subject, and she knows that's why I'm changing the subject, because I'm like, I don't want to get into it with you. I just don't. Yeah,
and
because we're never going to, it's going to be we agree to disagree. It's like, well...
Yeah.
What's the point of agreeing
or
to
how
disagree?
about let's not talk about it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my kids, it's become kind of a running thing now that they're like, you're really mean to John. And I can't remember if we've talked about this before. And John's like, she's not mean. She's like, you've never even seen me, because I raise my voice to him sometimes because I never raised, I mean, I maybe raised my voice to the kids, but it was rare. It was usually because I was in the kitchen and I'm like, it was something like,
leave your sister alone. Yeah.
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 Or like, my God, I ask you kids to put this in the dishwasher. You can't even do that for me. Like that's about as nasty as I got. And that was usually, and I'd end up apologizing 5 minutes later because I'm like, I'm sorry I raised my voice, but I'm really frustrated because you guys never do this, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so John, I told you before, he's a button pusher.
Yeah, he likes to egg.
He's a button pusher, and then he's also a type A personality, retired Marine lieutenant colonel. He's going to win. He's in it to win it. And so he's already got the end argument done in his head and to win it. And he'll say, well, we've started doing this thing because I have started with the, look, I don't want to discuss this, but I want to ask you one question. You being retired military, what do you feel about the protocol, or what do you feel is the propriety? Is it proper to use something like Signal for a chat to talk about
plans,
this? Is that like okay?
Right. Yeah.
And he
well,
yeah, he started out. Meanwhile, because when we first started dating, he had a fit about Hillary's emails and he would say it's because he knew a guy in the Marine Corps that got, I don't know if he got court-martialed, demoted, whatever, for something kind of similar.
Using an
email got out, whatever. And he uses that as his, oh, well, they didn't do it. And I'm like, okay, so what do you think of the
how do you like them apples?
Department of Defense using this and just putting, well, and I'm like,
so it's different. So there's a double standard.
And I was just like, okay, well, no. I'm like, so he's like, well, I don't know who added the guy. I'm like, that's not the question. No. My question
Anybody can access
this is
that.
It's not secure, an unsecure public chat app. Well, I don't understand it. I'm like, it's a public chat. I'm like, it's a public chat. Well, and I'm like, okay, never mind.
So if it
and then he wanted to wait, so we wanted to keep what?
If it had been somebody else, like if it had been Biden's.
But so anyway, he wouldn't. Right, he wouldn't do. So I'm like, okay, just never mind, forget it.
Laptop.
And he wanted to go there, and I'm like, just forget it. And so then I always end up having to go, all right. Sorry, that was really
and
loud. I'll have to be like, okay, I'm done.
And that's the thing.
All he understands.
And that's why our country is in the place that it's in, because there's one side that pushes and pushes and pushes, and the other side says, God, we just got to get along. Fine, have it your way, or fine, we won't bother with that.
Right. But this is, I'm talking basic communication styles that, like,
also,
my kids will joke that all I had to do was give him a look, and I actually gave it to him recently. They're like, oh my God, no, Mom, don't do that. And I'm like, but that's what I have to do to John to get him to stop talking about something that we're not going to agree on ever. And I just don't want to talk about it. But anyway, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, coming from, I know I didn't serve in the military, but I've been kind of.
But you played one on TV.
It's one of my hobbies that I always wanted to do. For a lieutenant colonel being, I assume he was a staff officer of some kind or whatever, that he had people under him, and someone of that rank is used to.
Now it's just
being
Margaret.
right a lot.
I never
and
thought
no one
about that.
under them is going to tell them that they're wrong,
right?
Or he'll have their ass. So that
I never thought about
plays into that character.
Yeah.
And it's not like necessarily his fault or a bad thing. It's the nature of,
and this is
of being in that position.
Yeah.
I always kind of attributed it to the way he was brought up, because that's how most people, I would say, like, I'm just pulling this, 90% of people are taught, their communication style by their parents or whoever raised them.
Where'd you get that fact? Where'd you get that number?
I know. That's why I said I don't know. The vast majority of people. How's that? I probably, and then as you maybe if you get older and you learn how to communicate better or whatever. But there's some people, most people, you don't know what you don't know. So until you get around other people. So I always thought his mother was always, I am right. I am the definitive answer, and I'm going to be whatever. So.
Yep.
So a person, somebody in that could either be like a shrinking violet and be like, well, I'm never right or whatever. Or if maybe sometimes people use kind of narcissistic tendencies to cope with that. Then they become the I'm right. And
in a career where you are perceived as, you're not challenged either. Because he, like Fitz was saying.
Right. It would have to be someone who he perceives as his superior, which is not going to be in this relationship unless you get to a certain, I don't know your dynamic, but you know what I mean? Think about passing those traits down, right? What happens when there's an abuser? The kid is often an abuser, and then the next kid is an abuser, and it travels down generations. Because until someone breaks the cycle.
Breaks the cycle. And that's what I was like, I did that with my kids. I'm like, you're not going to learn your mean, nasty communication style that your father and your grandfather had.
That's what Kelly's doing now with my daughter and with my son. Since she has come to this realization that she was mean to me for the first 20 years of our marriage, or the first 18 years of our marriage, or whatever. She sees our kids when they're dealing with their significant others. She sees herself in them, and she pulls them aside and says, you're not fucking doing that, because I did that to your father for 15 years, and no, it's not happening. And so
they're like, but you taught us. I learned it from you.
I learned it from watching you.
I learned it from you.
But
I learned it by watching you, Dad.
But she's big enough now to say, you know what? I was wrong. And that's not how you treat somebody. And
it's all about growth.
She saw it from her father.
It is. It's a growth thing.
Her father's a great guy. He's a lovely man, but he's he's a Marine Corps Vietnam vet. He is the strong silent type, and his way is his way, and that's how he's going to do it, and to hell with you all if you do another way,
To bring this full circle, and then, we got to get going. I was talking about our friend that passed away, and one of the things they said in the eulogy, it was actually the priest was giving us the homily, and this guy was very, every Sunday at 8:30, he was there at Mass, so he was very, very faithful. He's a very textbook Buffalo Polish guy. And so anyway, the priest, who was this priest, was given the homily, who, knew him well, and he's like, that's the thing about this guy's name was Dean. They're like, that's the thing, Dean always meets you where you are. He said he tries. What?
That's huge.
Right. And he talks about when he first came to town, he was out at one of the bars or whatever, or it was a little cafe, whatever. I don't know. They had drink. And so Dean walked up to him and said, he's like, Father, he knew he was the new priest. And he's like, and I think he handed him a drink or a shot. And he's like, I just wanted to say welcome, whatever. And he's like, and I was like, I really appreciated that, because like, that's like me. And he also, another friend of ours, the guy posted about this online, saying that when he was trying to get sober, Dean said, okay, we can still try and do the things we used to, but now you're sober, so we're going to do it this way, and so he was always meeting people where they're at, and like I try so hard to do that. Like I try to communicate with people at whatever level of communication they're at, except if it's abusive,
Right.
I try and do that, and I'm getting to a point now though that sometimes I've always tried and be really kind to others, but if you don't give a shit about being kind back, I just don't have any
shit to give.
But it's true, because
can't.
it's the really the bottom,
I should say civil, kind and civil.
Yeah, but I mean, we should all be kind to each other.
Exactly.
We should all be respectful of each other.
People think
some people just don't
being
know how to
kind,
do it.
Some people think kindness is weakness. And they think that being right and being authoritative is strong.
Right. That's true.
And it ain't.
That's why
there's very Christ-like.
Right. And that's why there's some people that we hear all the time who will never admit making a mistake. Ever.
Nope.
Could step in a hole and be like, I didn't step in that hole.
Yep.
And
on that note, subscribe, everybody.
Buy some merch.
Talking about holes. Buy
merch.
some merch. MadgeUnmuted.com merch. Subscribe.
Do you have any coffee mugs, Madge?
I do have coffee mugs.
I'm going to buy a coffee mug because I want... I don't have...
Oh, yeah, we should really have coffee. We should
have
really
the mugs.
Coffee mugs.
Yeah, we're going
to...
I'm going to buy a couple for the studio here.
Yeah, so we can...
I need to buy
What's the
one.
website? MadgeUnmuted.com? Is that where I go?
Yes.
Okay.
And click the merch page, the merch button at the top.
Because you really should be drinking out of your own mug, too.
I know, but this is kind of an homage to my daughter because
she's a swan.
Quirky and fun. But
and you can also smoke pot out of that, right? Doesn't it? It kind of looks like a bong.
I don't think that'll do well.
Yeah, no.
Right out of his
with the flame and the thing.
I was never a pot smoker, so I don't know. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, buy a coffee mug or a dog leash or printed shorts, or seriously, there's dog leash on there. It's really kind of funny. Awesome. I'm going to add more stuff to it. So thank you, Chris and Fitz, as always. And
always a pleasure, my redheaded beauty.
Thank you. And I think we'll be here next week. So until the next time on the next episode of Madge Unmuted.
Birthday.
Yes, it is. We'll see you on the next Madge Unmuted.